Close your eyes. Wherever you are right now, whatever the day brought, whatever is still sitting unresolved at the edges of your mind, you can set it down. Not permanently, not forever, just for tonight. The morning will be there for all of it. But right now, in this room, in this dark, the only thing being asked of you is the simplest thing. Rest. There's a story I want to take you into tonight. One of the oldest stories in human memory. One that has been told around fires, and in temples, and in quiet rooms. Not so different from this one for thousands of years. It begins in the middle of an impossible situation, which is, if you think about it, where most of the best stories begin, and where most of us find ourselves, at one point or another, in our own lives, in the middle of an impossible situation, nowhere to go, the thing behind you that you can't go back to, the thing in front of you that you can't get through, and the question, the real question, the one underneath all the practical ones, hanging in the air. What happens now? Tonight, we are going to find out what happens, not by rushing to the miracle, but by living inside the whole story, by feeling the weight of the impossible before the possible arrives, by staying with Moses and the people he was leading long enough to understand what it actually meant when the sea opened. So settle in. Let your body find the position it wants. Let your shoulders drop. Let your hands go soft. And listen. The story begins before the sea. It begins in Egypt. But we'll get there slowly. Tonight. Slow is the only speed we need. Egypt. The word itself carries weight. Thousands of years of human history compressed into 2 syllables. The pyramids. The Nile. The oldest civilization most people in the ancient world had ever encountered or heard of. A place so powerful, so permanent, so seemingly immovable, that the idea of anything changing there must have seemed almost absurd. And yet, the people Moses led out of Egypt had been there for 400 years. 400 years. Think about what that means. If your great-great-great-grandparents had arrived somewhere, and their children had been born there, and their children's children, and generation after generation after that, 12, 15, 20 generations, you would have no memory of anywhere else. That place would simply be where people like you came from, where people like you lived, where the rhythms of your days had always been shaped. Egypt was home, in the only sense that mattered, in the sense of the only place you'd ever known. Except it wasn't home. It was bondage. And there is a particular kind of pain in that. In the place that should be home, being the place that diminishes you. In the familiar being, the source of the wound rather than the balm for it. In knowing no other life but this one, even when this one is not what life was meant to be. The people were tired, not tired of a hard day, the tired of generations, the tiredness that lives in the body before it lives in the mind, the tiredness that gets passed down, that children inherit before they have words for it, that shapes the way you hold your shoulders and what you expect from mornings before you've even consciously formed the expectation. Generational tired, and into that tired, a voice, Moses, with an impossible message. We are leaving tonight. As you lie here, whatever kind of tiredness you are carrying, whether it's the tiredness of today, or the tiredness of a longer season, or the tiredness that goes further back, then you can fully trace. This story is for you. Leaving is possible. The other side of the tired is real. And the one who led people out of 400 years of bondage is the same one who is present in this room tonight. Rest in that, just for a moment, before we go any further. Rest in that. Moses himself was not who you might expect. If you were going to design the person to lead the greatest exodus in human history, to walk into the most powerful court in the ancient world and say, repeatedly, to the most powerful man in that world, let my people go, you might design someone with confidence built in from birth, someone raised in strength, in certainty, in the unassailable knowledge of their own worth and capability. In some ways, Moses was that person. He had been raised in Pharaoh's house, educated in the Egyptian court. He knew the language, the customs, the hierarchies, the way power operated in that world. He was not a stranger to it, but he was also someone else, someone who had run from his own history, who had spent 40 years in a desert tending his father-in-law's sheep, not as a preparation for leadership, but simply as a life, a quiet life, the kind of life where you stop expecting things to change because things have not changed for long enough that you've stopped expecting it. He was 80 years old when God spoke to him from a burning bush. 80, long past the age when most people expect their life's main story to begin. And his response to the calling was not enthusiasm. It was objection, after objection, after objection. Who am I to do this? What if they don't believe me? I'm not a good speaker. Please, send someone else. This is worth knowing, because the person who stood at the edge of the Red Sea and stretched out his hand over the water was not a person of unconquerable confidence. He was not someone who had never doubted, never flinched, never asked God to choose someone more suitable. He was someone who had doubted and flinched and asked for an alternative and had gone anyway. The going, despite the doubt, despite the inadequacy, despite the very human wish that someone else had been chosen. That is the faithfulness, not the absence of fear, not the presence of perfect confidence. The going anyway. If you are someone who shows up despite your doubt, who does the thing you've been asked to do, while still wondering if you're the right person to do it, you are in very good company tonight. Moses was 80 years old and terrified, and went anyway, and the sea opened. Rest in that. The plagues are not the focus of tonight's story. They are part of the long, exhausting back and forth of a Pharaoh whose heart hardened and softened and hardened again, the way things do when power is threatened and pride is involved and the stakes are enormous. Each time Moses went, each time he delivered the message, each time Pharaoh said no, and Moses went back, again and again. There is something in that repeated going that deserves acknowledgement, not the dramatic moments, the water turning, the frogs, the darkness, but the moments in between, the walking back from the palace, the waiting, the knowing that the answer was no, and the next answer would probably also be no, and going back anyway, because that was what was asked. Most faithfulness looks like that. Not one dramatic moment. A series of ordinary returns. Going back to the hard thing. Saying the word that needs saying one more time. Showing up to work that isn't working yet. Waiting on the promise that hasn't arrived. Again. And again. And again. Until the night that everything changed. The night of the Passover. The night that Pharaoh's own grief finally broke. What his pride had held rigid. The night he sent for Moses in the darkness and said, "Go, take your people, take everything, go." And they went quickly, because Pharaoh's mind had changed before and would change again, and the window was narrow. Quickly, but not without preparation, not without the unleavened bread. That would become a symbol. they would carry for the rest of their history. Not without the lamb, not without the doorposts marked, not without everything that made the night not just an escape but a beginning, a thing shaped with enough intention that it would carry meaning for thousands of years after they left. After 400 years, they left. That is the kind of moment that requires a specific kind of stillness to appreciate. 400 years. And then, go. There are things in your own story that have felt like 400 years. Situations that seemed permanent. Patterns that seemed unbreakable. Doors that seemed permanently closed. And then, sometimes slowly, sometimes with a speed that surprises you, something shifts, something opens. The going becomes possible, not because you finally did enough, not because you finally earned it, because the time came. The time came for Israel, and for whatever you are waiting for, or have been waiting for. The time is coming. It always comes. They walked. This is what most paintings of the Exodus miss. The walking. The sheer human, physical, ordinary act of walking, not floating, not being carried, walking. Hundreds of thousands of people, moving through the night. Children who didn't fully understand what was happening, but felt the urgency in their parents' pace. Old people who had lived their whole lives in Egypt and were now leaving it. Their legs carried them forward even as their eyes kept looking back. Young men and women carrying everything they could hold. Animals. The bones of Joseph carried, as Joseph had requested centuries before, to be buried in the land he'd been promised. The bones of Joseph. Someone had kept that promise across 400 years. Someone had carried the knowledge of that request from generation to generation, through everything, until the night finally came, when they could make good on it. The faithfulness of the ordinary people who carried that knowledge, who said to their children, "Remember, we are to take his bones," who made sure it wasn't forgotten. Walk with them tonight, in your imagination, not quickly. The pace of hundreds of thousands of people moving together is not quick. It is the pace of a crowd that is trying to hold together, that is trying not to lose anyone in the dark, that is moving with the combined intention of a people who have been waiting for this for a very long time. The night air, the sound of feet on the ground, the low sound of voices, not loud, not celebratory yet, because they are not clear yet, they are not safe yet, They are still in the leaving, and the leaving is its own thing, before it becomes the having left. The stars overhead, the pillar of fire that the text tells us led them, burning ahead of them, visible, moving when they needed to move, stopping when they needed to stop, something to follow in the dark, something that said, "This way," and they followed, one step and another, one step and another, all the way through the night. Tonight, as you lie in the dark, whatever crossing you are on, whatever direction feels uncertain, there is something that says "this way." It may not look like fire. It may be quieter than that. But it is there. Something that says, "This way." Follow it, one step at a time. And tonight, the step is rest. Rest is the direction for tonight. So rest, one breath at a time. This way. They camped by the sea. The text is specific about this. Pi-Hahireth, between Migdol and the sea, before Baal-Zephon. The geography is real. The place was real. They stopped there, and they set up camp. And for a moment, the impossible journey had a pause in it. And then, someone looked back and saw the dust. Pharaoh's army, because Pharaoh had changed his mind again, as he always changed his mind, as the proud and powerful do when the thing they've released comes back to them as loss. He had looked at Egypt without its labor force, and something in him couldn't bear it. And so he had gathered his army, chariots, horsemen, soldiers, and come after them, the dust rising in the distance behind them, and before them, the sea, the Red Sea, uncrossable, impassable, a body of water that did not care about their situation, that would not part for desperation, or urgency or the rightness of their cause. Just water between them and where they needed to go. Behind them, the army. Before them, the sea. And the people did what people do in that situation. They panicked. They turned on Moses. Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us out here to die? Were there not enough graves in Egypt? This is a desperate thing to say, and it is also a very human thing to say when the impossible situation arrives, when the thing behind you is catching up, and the thing in front of you is uncrossable. The person nearest to you, who seems responsible for the predicament, becomes the target of everything that fear produces. Moses had done nothing wrong. He had led them exactly where God had told him to lead them, and they were telling him he had led them to their deaths. Have you ever been in a situation where you did the right thing, followed what you were called to follow, and arrived somewhere that looked exactly like failure? Where the evidence seemed to suggest you had gotten it wrong? Where the thing you'd been promised and the situation you were actually in had nothing visible in common? That is the Red Sea, and Moses stood at its edge and said something that I want you to hear tonight. He said, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm and see the salvation of the Lord, which He will work for you today. The Lord will fight for you. You need only be still. You need only be still. Not run, not fight, not figure out a plan. Be still and let the Lord fight. Tonight, whatever is behind you, whatever is in front of you, whatever seems uncrossable, hear those words. You need only be still. The fighting is not yours tonight. The crossing is not yours to arrange. You only need to be still and rest and see what the morning brings. Be still right now, in this bed, in this dark. Be still and rest. Be still. Let those two words work on you for a moment before the story continues, not as a command that shuts something down, as an invitation that opens something up. Be still. The body first. Whatever is still holding, the shoulders, the jaw, the hands that have been quietly curling without being asked to. Let it go. Let the stillness reach the body first, because the body is where the fear lives, not in the mind, where we tend to look for it. In the body, in the tightened muscle, and the held breath, and the subtle bracing that happens when something has been frightening for long enough that the body starts to expect it. Let the body be still, not rigid, not stiff. The stillness of water that is not being disturbed. The stillness of a field in the hour before dawn, when nothing is moving, and even the air seems to hold its breath. That stillness, let it start in the shoulders. Let them drop a little further than they already have. Let it move into the arms, the forearms, the hands. Let the fingers relax until there is no particular shape to them. Let it reach the jaw, the space behind the eyes. The muscles of the forehead have been doing the subtle work of concentration and concern. Let all of it soften into stillness. And then the mind will come last. It always does. The body takes instruction more readily than the mind. which has opinions about everything and wants to be consulted before it agrees to stop. But the mind can be invited, not forced. Invited by giving it somewhere gentle to rest, by giving it this story, which is already inside it now, already becoming the landscape of tonight, rather than the landscape of whatever was worrying it an hour ago. The edge of the sea, the night sky above, the sound of the water. The army is still far enough behind that there is this moment, this still, suspended, breathless moment between what is coming and what has not yet arrived. The Lord will fight for you. You need only be still. Let your mind rest on that, and let the stillness deepen, and let the sleep come, in whatever way it comes, quietly, without announcement, like the tide, the pillar. Before the sea opened, something moved, the pillar of cloud that had been leading them, that visible, present, moving ahead of them, guidance that had been with them since they left Egypt. It moved, not forward. It moved to behind them, between the Israelites and Pharaoh's approaching army, and there it stayed through the night. A pillar of cloud on one side, dark to Pharaoh's forces, so that they could not advance through it, and fire on the other side, light to the Israelites, so that they were not in darkness. The same pillar, darkness to one side, light to the other. The same thing functions differently, depending on which side of it you are on. Think about that for a moment. The protection was not the absence of the threat. Pharaoh's army was still out there. The chariots were still real. The intention was still there. Nothing about the danger had been removed. What had been given was a buffer, a night of buffer, between the threat and the people. A night to breathe, a night to wait, a night to let God do what only God could do, while the people, instead of running or fighting or despairing, were held in a specific, protected space between the army and the sea. Sometimes that is exactly what you are given, in the middle of an impossible situation, not the resolution. A night, a buffer, a protected space between what is behind you and what is in front of you, where the thing you need is not yet visible, but the protection is real. A night like tonight, where nothing may be resolved, where the impossible thing is on one side and the uncrossable thing on the other is still real, but where something is standing between you and the worst of it, something that says, not yet, not tonight. Tonight you rest. the pillar. Darkness to what pursues you. Light to where you are. The same presence. Both things at once. Tonight. That presence is here. In this room. Between you and the army of everything that has been chasing you. Darkness to it. Light to you. You are in the buffer. You are in the protected night. And the morning when the sea will open, is coming. But for now, you rest. The pillar is here, and you are held. Moses stretched out his hand. Not in the night, in the morning, after the night of the pillar, after the buffer, after the protected dark had done what it needed to do, the Lord told him, "Stretch out your hand over the sea." And Moses did. And the Lord drove the sea back by a strong east wind all that night. All that night. The parting of the sea was not instantaneous. It didn't happen in a single dramatic moment. The way the paintings tend to show it. The wind blew all night. The water retreated gradually. As wind moves water, by persistent, patient, sustained force working on something large until it gives way. All night, while the Israelites waited on the shore, while the pillar held Pharaoh's army in the dark, while Moses' hand remained extended, all night, and by morning, the seafloor was dry. Walls of water on both sides, held by the hand that holds everything. A path where there had been no path. Solid ground under what had been uncrossable water. A way through, where there had been no way through. This, too, is worth sitting with. The miracle took all night. It wasn't done in a moment. It required the sustained work of the wind, and the sustained holding of Moses' hand, and the sustained presence of the pillar, and the sustained patience of hundreds of thousands of people waiting on a shore with an army behind them and an impossible sea in front of them. All night, and by morning, the way was there. Most of the real things, the things that last, the things that matter, the things that change the trajectory of a life or a people, take all night. The healing that happens slowly, below the surface, before you feel it. The shift in a relationship, that builds through many conversations, before it is visible in a single one. The work that looks like nothing for a long time, and then suddenly looks like something. The miracle that requires all night before the dry ground appears. Are you in the all night? Is the wind blowing, but the sea not yet divided? Is the pillar holding, but the path not yet visible? Then hear this, and let it reach you as you drift toward sleep. The wind is still blowing. The work is still being done. Beneath what you can see, in the invisible places, in the sustained, patient, all-night work of the one who holds the waters. Morning is coming. The dry ground is coming. You are not in the middle of nothing. You are in the middle of the all-night. And by morning, the way will be there. Rest now. Let the night do its work. You don't have to watch it happen. You only have to be here, on the shore, in the protected dark, waiting for the morning that is already coming. Imagine the shore, not a gentle, sandy beach. The coast of the Red Sea in this region is rocky, dramatic, edged with the particular quality that desert coastlines have. The harsh land meeting the water with no gradual transition, no soft dunes, no gentle slope into the sea. Rock, and then water. The Israelites camped on this shore in the middle of the night, after the pillar had moved and before the sea had parted. There was a period of simply being there. The water in front of them, the dark behind them, where the pillar was, the stars above, the same stars that had been above Egypt, but somehow different here. Maybe it was the air. Maybe it was the fact of having left. The same stars above a different people. A people in motion towards something they couldn't yet see. Some of them were afraid. Of course they were. Fear is not a failure of faith. It is the body's honest response to genuine danger. The Israelites were not wrong to be afraid. The army was real. The sea was real. The impossibility of the situation was real. What Moses offered them was not the removal of the fear. It was the reframing of what the fear was pointing at. Do not be afraid. Stand firm and see the salvation of the Lord. He didn't say, "There is nothing to fear." He said, "The thing you are afraid of is not the whole story. There is something else happening here that you cannot yet see. And what you cannot yet see is larger than what you can. So stand firm and wait and see tonight. If there is fear in the room with you, this is for you. The fear is not wrong. What it's pointing at may be real, but the fear is not seeing the whole picture. The whole picture includes the pillar. The whole picture includes the wind that is blowing all night. The whole picture includes the one who said, "Let us go to the other side," and the one who said, "You need only be still." The whole picture is larger than the fear. And tonight, in the dark, on the shore, you don't need to see the whole picture. You only need to know that it exists, and that the morning is coming. Stand firm and rest. The two things are not contradictions. To stand firm is to refuse, to let fear be the final word. To rest is to act on that refusal in the most complete way possible. Stand firm and rest. There is something in the crossing itself worth staying with. The people walked through on dry ground, not damp ground, not the soft, giving ground of a lake bed that has recently held water. Dry ground. The text is insistent on this. The miracle was complete, not partial, not almost. The ground was dry. The path was real. The walls of water stood on either side, and they walked. All of them. The old people who had doubted this would ever come. The young ones who had never known anything but Egypt. The children who were being carried, and the children who were old enough to walk on their own, and the ones somewhere in between, holding on to a parent's hand. Every one of them, through the path that had been a sea, step by step. And I think about what that walk must have felt like. The walls of water on either side, held by something, rising above them. The sound of it different from the sound of open water. A pressure in the air. The awareness of what was around you on both sides. What was held back. What would normally be here. And the ground beneath your feet. Solid. Real. Dry. There is a particular quality to walking through something you didn't think you could walk through. A quality of disbelief and gratitude, and forward motion all at the same time. The body moving because the body knows to move, and the mind still catching up, still processing the fact that the impossible is happening, and has not stopped happening with each step. Still happening. Step. Still happening. Step. Still happening. Step. All the way through. To the other side. There will be crossings in your life. Some already behind you. Some still ahead. That will have this quality. The impossible that becomes the ground you walk through. The uncrossable that becomes the path. The thing you couldn't get through becoming the thing you did get through. And you will look back from the other side. As the Israelites looked back. As the text tells us they looked back. And saw the sea return to its normal depth. Saw Pharaoh's army overwhelmed by the very water that had been held back for them. And something in you will understand. What was held back for you, held what was pursuing you. The same miracle that saved you absorbed what came after you. You will understand. But tonight, you are on the shore, or in the crossing, or just arrived at the other side. Still breathing hard, still processing. Wherever you are in the story, you are held. The same one who parted the sea holds the walls of water on either side of wherever you are walking. One step, and the next. You are going to make it through. You always have. You always will. Rest in that tonight. Let the shore hold you. Let the dark be gentle. And sleep. After they crossed, after the last of them had stepped onto the far shore, and the sea had closed behind them, Moses and his sister Miriam led the people in singing, not a polished, formal hymn, a song that erupted, the way songs erupt when something happens that is so large your body can't contain it. And music is the only container large enough. Miriam took a tambourine, and the women went out after her with tambourines, dancing. I will sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider he has thrown into the sea. This is the first recorded song of the Israelites as a free people. It came out of them before they'd eaten, before they'd rested, before they'd done anything practical at all. The song came first. The celebration came first. The praise came first. Because some things are too large for the practical to absorb before the heart has had its say. The sea had opened. They had walked through. The army was gone. And Miriam, who had watched her baby brother placed in a basket on the Nile 80 years before, who had kept watch from the reeds to see what would become of him, who had carried the long arc of hope through all the years. Between that basket and this shore, Miriam danced with tambourines on the shore of the sea. That had been their impossibility and was now their deliverance. Tonight is not the dancing. Tonight is the shore before the crossing, or the middle of the crossing, or the exhausted, wandering hours just after. But the dancing is coming. Miriam's tambourine is not put away. It is waiting for the morning, when you look back at the thing that seemed impossible and feel your body want to move, want to make sound, want to express what cannot be expressed in any quieter way. That morning is coming. For now, rest. The dance can wait. The shore is soft enough for sleep, and the night is doing its patient, all-night work. Rest now. The tambourine will be there in the morning. Let me tell you about Moses in the desert before any of this happened. Before Egypt, before Pharaoh, before the plagues, and the Passover, and the sea. 40 years he spent in the desert of Midian. 40 years. After the palace, after the privileged education, after the moment of violence, when he had tried to intervene in an injustice, and it had gone terribly wrong. And he had run from Egypt, from his identity, from everything he had been, into the desert. And there he stayed, tending sheep. The man who would lead the greatest exodus in human history spent 40 years tending sheep in the desert, getting quieter and quieter, the palace self falling away year by year, the man beneath becoming visible. There is something in the desert that the Bible returns to again and again. The desert strips things, not cruelly, not with the intention of destruction, but with the honesty of a place that has no patience for pretense. The desert offers no comfort except what is real, no distraction except what is actually there, no company except the quiet and the sky and whatever is genuinely inside you. Moses came out of the palace loud, with the accumulated noise of a life built on power and position and the management of appearances. He came out of the desert quiet, a different kind of quiet than the one he went in with. Not the quiet of someone who has nothing to say. The quiet of someone who has learned the difference between what is worth saying and what isn't. The quiet of a man who had spent 40 years in a place that insisted on that distinction. And then, in that quiet, the bush, the burning bush that was not consumed. Moses saw it from a distance, and he did something that was, in its way, the most important thing he did. He turned aside to look. He turned aside. He stopped what he was doing and went toward the thing that was strange and worth seeing. The Lord saw that Moses turned aside to look, and he spoke. Out of the quiet, out of the turned aside, out of the willingness to stop the ordinary motion of the day and pay attention to something that didn't fit the ordinary. Remove your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. Holy ground. Not a temple, not a mountain yet. That would come later. A desert hillside, a burning bush. A man who had been tending sheep for 40 years, and who had enough quiet in him to notice the unusual thing, and enough willingness to go toward it. Holy ground is anywhere that God speaks. And tonight, this room, this dark, this quiet, this breath, this is holy ground. Not because of anything you've done, because of who is here. Remove your sandals, not literally, but in the way that matters. Set down the ordinary. Set down the busyness of the mind. Set down the list and the worry and the performance. You are standing on holy ground tonight. The same presence that spoke from the burning bush is in this room. And what he says tonight is the same thing he said then. I have seen. I have heard. I know. I have seen your suffering. I have heard your crying. I know your pain. I am here. Let that reach you. All the way in. I am here. Rest in that. The impossible situations. Let's name them honestly for a moment. Not yours specifically. Everyone's impossible situation is specific, personal, too particular to name from the outside. But the shape of them, the feeling of them, the particular texture of being in a place where the way forward is blocked and the way back is also blocked, and the options that were available before are no longer available. The Red Sea situation. The army is real. The sea is real. The impossibility is not imagined. Moses didn't minimize it. The people weren't wrong to be afraid. The situation was genuinely what it looked like. No visible way through, and danger approaching from behind. And yet, the key phrase, the phrase that holds the whole thing together, is this: stand firm and see the salvation of the Lord. See, not do, not arrange, not engineer. See, the salvation was going to be something to witness, not something to produce. Moses was not going to part the sea through ingenuity, or strategic planning, or the right coalition of allies. He was going to stretch out his hand, not with power of his own, but as a conduit for a power that was not his. And watch what happened. See the salvation of the Lord. This is a particular kind of instruction that most of us find very difficult, because we are doers. We are solvers. We are people who believe, on some level, that if we think about the problem long enough, or try hard enough, or find the right approach, we can get through the impossible situation. And sometimes that is true. Many situations yield to effort and creativity and persistence, but some don't. Some are genuinely Red Sea situations. Some cannot be solved by trying harder. Some require a different instruction entirely. Stand firm and see, and let the one who parts seas do what only he can do. This instruction is not passivity. It is the most demanding thing Moses told the people, because it required them to stop running, stop fighting, stop trying to find a way out that their own effort could produce, to turn and face the impossible situation and say, I cannot do this, and then to watch and see and trust that what they could not do, God could. Tonight, If there is something in your life that has the quality of the Red Sea, something that cannot be solved by trying harder, that effort alone cannot move, this is for you. Stand firm. You need only be still and see what the morning brings. The salvation of the Lord, which is not your salvation, which comes from outside you and beyond you, and carries you through things that your own capacity could never carry you through. Stand firm, be still, and see. Let that be what you carry into sleep tonight. Not the problem, the instruction. Stand firm, be still, see, and sleep. The water on both sides. Imagine walking through the parted sea. The walls of water on the left and the right, held by something the text doesn't fully explain, by the hand of God, by the east wind, by the power that holds the laws of nature in place, and can, when the moment requires it, hold them differently. Held. Walls of water. Held. And the sound of it. Water held in walls does not make no sound. It makes a different sound than water in motion. A kind of sustained, low presence. A hum. Almost. The awareness of enormous pressure being maintained. The awareness that what surrounds you is held rather than contained. Held by will, by intention, by something that has chosen to hold it and can choose to release it. Walk through that sound tonight. Not the threatening version, the protecting version. The walls of water are not a threat in the crossing. They are the miracle. What would drown you is what is saving you. The sea itself has become the corridor, and the ground underfoot. Dry. Solid. The specific feel of ground that has been uncovered. Not man-made. Not paved, not prepared by human hands. Simply the earth that was under the water, now above it, ancient and real and here. Each step, real, solid. The ground is there, step by step. The ground is there. This is the quality of God's miracles. In the middle of the impossible. Not floaty. Not vague. Not some spiritual experience that can't be located in space and time. Ground. Under your feet. Real. Solid, step by step, in your own life, in the Red Sea situations that you have already come through. Do you remember the ground? The specific, solid. This is actually happening ground of a miracle that turned out to be real. The moment when the impossible became the path, and each step revealed that the path was actually there. was solid, was going to hold? You have been through the sea before. You may not call it that, but there is something in your history, some situation, that should not have resolved the way it resolved, some door that opened when it should have been shut, some path that appeared where there was no path, that has the quality of dry ground in the middle of the sea. You have been through the sea before, and the same one who parted it then has not changed. He is the same. His capacity is the same. His intention towards you is the same. The sea of whatever you are facing now is not beyond him. The dry ground is coming. Rest in that tonight. Let that be the ground your mind rests on as you sleep. The dry ground, coming, already being prepared by the wind that blows all night. The path is being made. You need only be still and sleep. Let me tell you what happened after the crossing, because the story doesn't end at the sea. It never does. The people sang. They danced. They celebrated in the wild, embodied way of people who have just escaped something enormous. Miriam and her tambourine, Moses and his song, the joy that was too large for anything but music and movement. And then, 3 days later, 3 days, they were in the desert of Shur, walking, no water. 3 days without water in the desert. And when they finally found water, it was bitter, undrinkable. The place was called Mara, which means bitter, because that is what the water tasted like. And the people complained. Again, 3 days after the miracle, 3 days after the walls of water, and the dry ground and Miriam's tambourine, they were complaining. What are we to drink? This is the part of the Exodus story that people sometimes find discouraging. How could they, after everything they had just seen, how could they forget so quickly? How could the miracle feel so distant after only 3 days? But I find it, honestly, comforting, because I know what 3 days without water in the desert feels like. Metaphorically, I know what it is to have experienced something extraordinary, and then find myself in a different kind of difficulty, and discover that the memory of the miracle doesn't automatically make the current thirst easier to bear. The thirst is real. The bitterness is real. The miracle of last week doesn't change the reality of this water. And God, in His patience, which is one of the most remarkable qualities of the whole biblical narrative, doesn't rebuke them for this. He doesn't say, "How dare you?" after what I just did. He shows Moses a piece of wood. Moses throws it into the water. and the water becomes sweet. The bitter becomes drinkable, not by the people's faith, not by their gratitude or their memory, or their consistency, by the provision of God in the middle of the new situation, which is what the provision does. It meets you in the new situation, not just in the last one. The God who parted the sea is also the God who sweetens the bitter water. The same God, a different moment, a different miracle, but the same steady, patient, present attention to what is actually needed right now, tonight. If the thirst of your current situation feels different from the miracle of a previous one, if the water you've found since your last deliverance has tasted bitter, hear this. He is not done. The wood is being shown to Moses. The bitterness can be sweetened. The provision continues. It has not run out. Rest in that. Let that be the sweetness in the water tonight. The provision that meets you where you are, not where you were. Here, tonight, this moment. Sleep. The desert teaches patience. Moses learned this over 40 years. The Israelites were learning it now. In the weeks and months after the sea, the desert does not rush. It cannot be hurried. It operates on a timescale that human urgency finds deeply uncomfortable. The slow cycle of seasons, the patient endurance of the heat, the way water is precious is precisely because it doesn't come easily. The desert teaches you what you actually need versus what you thought you needed. It teaches you the difference between want and require. It teaches you, slowly, sometimes painfully, that the daily provision is enough, that the manna that came each morning was enough for each morning, that trying to store it up, trying to secure tomorrow's supply today, resulted only in corruption. The stored manna rotted. Enough for today. Just today. This was the lesson. And it is one of the most countercultural lessons imaginable in the ancient world and in ours. We are hoarders by nature, not just of things, of certainty, of security, of the feeling that we have enough arranged for tomorrow. That today doesn't require trust. But the desert doesn't allow that. The desert says, today's manna for today. Tomorrow's will come tomorrow. Trust that. And tonight, this is what sleep asks of you. Tonight's rest for tonight. Tomorrow's capacity will come with tomorrow. You don't need to store up enough wakefulness tonight to handle whatever tomorrow holds. You need to sleep. Just tonight. Just this rest. Just this breath. And tomorrow's provision will be there. When tomorrow arrives, It always is. It always has been. The manna has never failed to appear in the morning. Not once. Sleep now. The manna for tomorrow is already being prepared. You don't have to arrange it. You only have to sleep and trust that when you wake, what you need will be there. It will be there. It always is. Rest. Your body knows something your mind sometimes forgets. Your body knows that it has been through hard things and survived them. It carries that knowledge in its cells, in the memory of every difficulty that resolved, every illness that passed, every wound that healed, every night that seemed endless and turned into morning. The body knows. The body is, in its quiet way, the most faithful part of you. It keeps doing what it does. The heart beating, the lungs breathing, the blood moving, the intricate and ongoing miracle of being alive. Through everything, through grief and fear and exhaustion and uncertainty, through all the Red Sea moments and all the desert stretches and all the bitter water stops in between. It keeps going. It knows how, and tonight it knows how to rest. It has done this every night of your life. It knows the sequence, the slowing of the breath, the deepening of the muscles' release, the gradual dimming of the mind's activity, the crossing of the threshold into the territory of sleep, where things are processed and integrated and rebuilt in ways that consciousness cannot manage. It knows how. You don't have to teach it. You only have to stop preventing it. Stop managing. Stop watching. Stop waiting for sleep to arrive as though it might not. It will arrive. It always does. Your body has been through the Red Sea before. It has crossed on dry ground. It has found water in the desert. It knows that the morning comes. Trust the body tonight. Trust the knowing that lives below the noise of the mind. The breath knows its rhythm. The muscles know how to release. The crossing knows how to complete. Let it. All the way. Into the deep. Into the genuine rest. Into the sleep that restores. The body knows the way. Follow it. All the way across. To the other side. Where morning is waiting. Good and new and already prepared. Cross over. And sleep. The shore after the crossing. Imagine it. The far shore. The eastern bank of the Red Sea. The ground solid and real beneath hundreds of thousands of pairs of feet. Behind them, the water returned to its depth. The army of Pharaoh no longer visible, no longer a threat. Before them, the desert, which was its own kind of challenge. But that was for later. Right now, this moment, was for nothing except standing on the other side of the impossible and breathing. Just breathing. The way you breathe after you have been holding your breath for a very long time. And finally the thing that required the holding is over. All the way in, all the way out. The air on the other side of the sea tasted different from the air on the Egyptian side. Or maybe it only seemed that way. Maybe the difference was not in the air but in the lungs breathing it. The same air, breathed by a people who were, for the first time in 400 years, free. The air of freedom. Breathe like that tonight. Not because you have to earn it, because you already have it. The freedom to rest, the freedom to stop, the freedom to be held through the night by something that doesn't require your performance, or your gratitude, or your perfect faith, simply to be held, all the way in, all the way out, the other shore. You are here. Whatever sea you crossed to get here, whatever impossible thing brought you to this moment, this room, this night, you are on the other shore, and the breath is free, and the morning is coming, and the army is behind you, overwhelmed by the same water that carried you. Breathe and rest. The other shore is real. You are on it. A prayer for the night, for the impossible situations, for the Red Sea moments, the ones behind us and the ones still ahead. Lord, you are the God who parts seas, not metaphorically, not as a symbol for something that happens in a vague spiritual sense. Actually, the water moved, the ground dried, the people crossed. The thing that was impossible became the path. You are that God. And tonight, in this room, with this person lying in the dark carrying whatever they are carrying, you are still that God. The sea that stands in front of them right now, whatever its shape, the situation that cannot be solved by trying harder, the door that will not open by effort alone, the thing that requires a miracle, and not just persistence. You see it. You have already seen it. Before they lay down tonight, before they were born, you saw it, and you are not surprised by it, and you are not limited by it, and you have not run out of ways to move through it. Lord, send the east wind, the wind that blows all night, the sustained, patient, invisible work that moves the impossible thing gradually, until by morning there is dry ground where there was sea. Do that work tonight. while this person sleeps, while their body rests and their mind releases, and their conscious grip on the situation loosens enough for your work to have more room. Do what only you can do, and for the army that is behind them, the things that have been pursuing them, the fears that have been chasing them, the old patterns, and old wounds, and old voices that keep catching up. Let them be absorbed by the same water that saved your people. What comes after them, let it find what Pharaoh's army found. The sea, return to its depth, an end to the pursuit. Lord, be the pillar tonight, darkness to what threatens, light to where your beloved are. Stand between and hold the night, and for the bitter water that may be coming, the Mara after the miracle, the desert stretch after the sea. Go ahead, put the wood in the water, sweeten what would otherwise be undrinkable. Make a way to be sustained even through the hard stretches between the great deliverances. You are faithful in the ordinary days as much as in the extraordinary ones. We receive that faithfulness tonight, and we say, quietly, simply, with whatever faith is available right now, even if it is very small. Thank you. Thank you for the sea that opened. Thank you for the ground that was dry. Thank you for the crossing. Thank you that it is not our job to part the sea, only to stretch out the hand, only to trust, only to stand firm, only to be still and see. We are still, we are seeing, and we trust. Even here, even tonight, even in the dark on the near shore of whatever impossible thing is still ahead, we trust. The wind that blows all night, let that image stay with you as you drift. Not a violent wind, not the wind of the storm on Galilee. A sustained, patient, purposeful wind. The kind that doesn't announce itself with drama but simply works, hour after hour, moving the impossible thing, gradually, in the direction it needs to move, all night. While you sleep, the wind is blowing, not metaphorically. The work is actually being done in the invisible places, in the underneath of things, in the places that don't show yet but will, in the morning, have changed. The ground that was underwater is becoming dry. 1 hour at a time, one gust of wind at a time, all night. While you sleep, you don't have to watch it happen. You don't have to supervise it. You only have to sleep and trust. And by morning, by some morning, the right morning, the morning that is already set and waiting in the future, the dry ground will be there, The path will be visible. The impossible will have become the way through. It always does. The wind that blows all night always finds the morning, and the morning always finds the dry ground, and the dry ground always holds the people who walk on it. This is the sheep of the story. It has always been the sheep of the story. And your story has this sheep too. Even now, even tonight, the wind is blowing. Sleep. Let it work. Trust the morning. One more walk through the story. The slowest one. For the final crossing into sleep. Egypt. 400 years. A people who had forgotten what freedom felt like. Moses, 80 years old, tending sheep in the desert, quiet in the way that only decades of silence make you quiet. A burning bush. Take off your sandals. You are on holy ground. I have seen. I have heard. I know. The long back and forth with Pharaoh. The plagues. The Passover night. The going. Quickly. With unleavened bread. With the bones of Joseph. Walking through the night. The pillar of fire ahead of them. The camp by the sea. The dust rising behind them. The panic. Moses standing firm. Do not be afraid. The Lord will fight for you. You need only be still. The pillar moving. Darkness to Pharaoh's army. Light to Israel. The east wind. All night. The water moving. The ground appearing. Dry. Solid. Real. Walking. Step by step. The walls of water on both sides. The sound of held water. The sound of hundreds of thousands of people breathing through the impossible path. The other shore. The sea returning. Miriam and the tambourine. The song. The dance. The desert ahead. The manna every morning. Enough for today. Always enough for today. Let the whole story move through you slowly, like the east wind, like water that recedes, like the gradual appearance of dry ground. Let it move, and let it carry you into the crossing, into the sleep, into the other shore, which is morning, real, new, already prepared, already waiting. One breath, and the next, and the next. You are crossing. The ground is dry. The walls of water hold, and the other shore is there. You are going to arrive. You always do. Sleep now. Cross over. All the way. Good night. The morning is coming. Even now, while the night is still deep, and the room is still dark, and your body is doing its patient, faithful, all-night work of rest and restoration. The morning is already being prepared, the light that will come through the curtain, the first sounds of the world beginning again, the breath of a new day that has not yet been touched by difficulty or demand. That morning, it is coming, and it will find you rested, rebuilt, return to yourself after the night's good work. The same way the Israelites stepped onto the far shore, the same way they stood on dry ground and breathed the air of the other side, you will wake into a morning that is on the other side of this night, with more to give than you had when you lay down, with a clarity that comes from genuine rest, with the quiet knowledge, held somewhere below the level of daily thought, that you were not alone through the night, that the wind was blowing, that the work was being done, that the dry ground is coming, that the God who parted the sea is the same God who was in this room tonight, is the same God who will be there in the morning. You will wake into His faithfulness, as you always do, as you always have, even on the days you didn't notice it, even on the days it was hard to see. It was there. It is there. It will be there. The morning is coming. Sleep until it does. Deeply, completely, in the great held dark of a night that is doing its patient, faithful, all-night work. You are safe. You are held. You are on your way to the other shore, and the ground there is dry, and the air there is free, and the morning there is good. Good night, dear friend. Good night. Be still, and sleep, and see. The salvation of the Lord is coming. It always comes. Good night. Let's return to the desert. Not the desert of after, the desert of before. The 40 years Moses spent in Midian, in the silence between who he had been and who he was becoming. There is something in that in-between that most of us don't talk about. The long middle. The season that doesn't feel like preparation, because it doesn't feel like anything that has a name yet. It just feels like time passing, days that are the same as the days before them. The accumulation of ordinary mornings that don't announce themselves as significant. Moses got up every morning in Midian and led the sheep to wherever the sheep needed to go that day. That was the day. Then he led them back. Then it was evening. Then morning again. For 40 years. And during those 40 years, the people he had come from were still in Egypt, still in bondage. The situation he had run from the injustice that had moved him to violence and cost him everything, was still there, unchanged, as though his fleeing had made no difference at all. Because it hadn't. His trying to fix it had not fixed it. His running had not changed it. The situation was exactly what it had been when he left, and he was an old man in the desert, and nothing about his exterior circumstances suggested that any of this would ever change. And yet, under the surface of those 40 years, something was being prepared. The man who had arrived in Midian loud with palace self was becoming quiet enough to hear a whisper. The man who had tried to solve injustice with force was becoming patient enough to understand. A different kind of power. The man who had run from his identity was becoming settled enough in himself to be given it back. The 40 years were not empty. They were the preparation. It was just preparation that didn't look like preparation while it was happening. If you are in a long middle right now, a season that doesn't look like anything yet, that feels more like time passing than like anything building, let Moses' 40 years be company for you. Not everything that looks like nothing is nothing. Not every quiet season is a wasted season. The burning bush comes after the long middle. The calling comes in the desert. The 40 years made Moses someone who could go back. Your long middle is making you someone too. It is not finished yet, but it is not empty. Rest in that. The preparation is real, even when it doesn't look like it. Even in the ordinary mornings. Even now. There is something about the sea that deserves more time. The Red Sea specifically, but also the sea as an image. The sea is a thing that has always represented in human imagination the deep, the unknowable. The force is too large for human control. The sea does not care about human plans. The sea does not negotiate. The sea is simply enormous, patient, indifferent in the specific way that very large natural things are indifferent, not hostile, not malevolent, simply operating according to its own nature, which has nothing to do with what you want, or need, or plan. And yet, on one night in the history of the world, the sea was told to move. And it moved. The sea that had been the same sea since the beginning, since the waters were gathered into one place on the third day, and the dry land appeared. That sea was told by the one who gathered it in the first place to move, and the wind blew, and the water moved, and the ground appeared. This is the thing about God's power that is easy to miss. When we are in the middle of our impossible situations, when the sea is in front of us, and the army is behind us, and the impossibility is pressing in from every side. He made the sea. He knows how it works because he made how it works. The laws that govern water are his laws, put there by him, operating because he sustains them, available to be altered by him when the situation requires it. The sea is not his adversary. It is his creation. And when the sea needs to move, it moves. Whatever is standing between you and where you need to go, whatever sea, whatever impossibility, whatever thing that operates according to laws you cannot change, hear this. He made those laws. He made the sea. He knows every particle of whatever is blocking the way. And when the time comes, when the wind blows all night, the ground appears. Your impossibility is not his impossibility. Your Red Sea is not too large for the east wind. The ground is coming. Rest in that. Let the impossibility of your situation be held by the one for whom nothing is impossible, and sleep. The wind is already blowing. You just can't see the dry ground yet. But it's coming. Morning by morning. Breath by breath. It's coming. Let's stay with Moses at the burning bush a little longer, because there is something in that encounter that speaks directly to tonight. After God told Moses who he was and what he was being called to do, after the whole encounter with the burning bush, the holy ground, the voice of God in the fire, Moses asked a question, a practical question. When I go to the Israelites and say to them that the God of their ancestors has sent me, and they ask what his name is, what do I tell them? What is your name? And God said, I am who I am. Tell them, I am has sent me to you. I am, not I was, not I will be. I am. Present tense. The name of God in this encounter is the present tense of existence itself. I am. The God who is, not who was. Once. In a past that is now history. Not who will be. Someday. In a future you're waiting for. Who I is. Right now. In this present moment. In this room. In this breath. I am. Is here. Not was. Not will be. Is. This is the ground beneath the whole story. The ground beneath the burning bush, and the plagues, and the Passover, and the sea. The ground beneath Moses, and Miriam, and the tambourine, and the desert manna. I am. The God who inhabits the present moment so completely that his name is the present moment. Tonight, in this room, in this dark, in this breath. I am is here. Not the memory of something that happened thousands of years ago on the shore of the Red Sea. Here, I am, as present as your heartbeat, as real as the air you're breathing, as close as the inside of your own chest. I am here tonight with you in this. Let that be what you carry into sleep, not a historical fact, a present reality. I am is here, and I am has always been here, and I am will be here when you wake. The crossing at night. The text tells us that Israel crossed during the night, not at dawn. Through the night, the parting happened as darkness fell, and by the time morning came, they were already on the other side. They crossed in the dark, without being able to see the full extent of what was around them, without knowing exactly how far the path extended, with only the fire, the pillar, providing light enough to walk by, not full daylight, firelight, enough to take the next step, not enough to see the end of the path, just enough. This is how most crossings happen, not in full light, not with the complete picture, not knowing exactly how far the path extends, or what it will look like at the far shore, in the dark, by firelight, step by step, enough light for the next step. Just enough. And that is enough. That has always been enough. The people didn't need to see all the way to the far shore to take the first step. They needed to see the ground directly in front of them. And the pillar provided that. And they took the step. And then the next step was visible. And they took that one, and so on, all the way through, in the dark, by firelight, step by step. If you are in a dark season right now, if the full picture is not visible, if you can't see how far the path extends, or what the far shore looks like, you don't need to. You only need the next step. And the light for the next step is there. It has always been there. Even in the dark. Especially in the dark. One step. And then the next. And the ground is dry. And the path is real, and you are crossing. Even now, even in the sleeping, the crossing continues. The ground holds. The fire lights the next step, and the far shore is coming. Rest, and let the crossing continue. You don't have to be awake for it. You only have to be in the path. And you are. You are already in the path. And the ground is dry. And the morning is coming. Sleep. Something I want to offer for the anxious mind. because some of you have been lying here for a while now, and the thoughts keep returning. The same loop. The same worry wears a slightly different coat each time it comes around. The same fear presents itself again, as though you haven't already noticed it, already tried to address it, already determined that there is nothing more you can do with it tonight. For that mind, this. Moses stood at the edge of the impossible sea and said to the people, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only be still. The fighting is not yours. The problem solving is not yours tonight. The sea parting is not yours. Your job, specifically, literally, the thing you are being asked to do right now in this moment, is to be still, not to figure it out, not to find the angle you haven't considered, not to mentally rehearse the conversation, or the decision, or the situation one more time. Be still and let the Lord fight, which He is doing right now while you lie here in ways you cannot see and are not required to supervise. The east wind is blowing, the water is moving, the ground is being prepared, and none of it requires your wakefulness. None of it requires your anxiety. None of it needs your help. It only needs your trust. And trust, tonight, looks like this: closing your eyes and releasing the loop, and letting the thought come and pass, like water moving through, without following it, without engaging it, without giving it the energy of your attention that it is trying to claim. Let it come, and let it go, like a wave, like a breath, like the water moving when the east wind blows. Come and go, and underneath, the ground, still there, dry, real. The anxiety is the wave. The ground is what's underneath, and the ground is dry. Rest on the ground, not on the wave. The ground, underneath everything, the anxiety can touch. Still, solid, real, and held by the same one who held the walls of water on either side. Rest there, all the way down, into the ground, into the deep, into sleep, the far shore one final time, the place they were going all along, through 400 years of Egypt, through the 10 plagues, and the Passover night, through the night walk, and the pillar of fire, through the panic at the sea, through the crossing in the dark, with fire for light, and dry ground beneath, and walls of water on either side. Through all of it, the far shore, real, waiting, and now they are on it, standing on the ground of the other side, the sea behind them, the desert ahead, the tambourine in Miriam's hand. The song rises from people who have just remembered what it feels like to be free. This is what it was all for. The far shore. Not because the desert ahead would be easy. Not because the journey was over. It was, in many ways, just beginning. The 40 years in the wilderness were still ahead. The promised land was still a generation away. But the sea was crossed, and the far shore was real, and they were on it, and that changed everything. Some mornings, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not for a while, you will stand on a far shore. Some morning you will look back at the thing that seemed impossible and recognize that you are on the other side of it. Not because you are done, not because the journey is finished, but because this particular sea, this particular impossible, uncrossable, army behind you sea, has been crossed, and you will breathe the air of the other side, and it will taste like Miriam's freedom, and something in you will want to dance. That morning is real. It is in the future that is already being prepared for you. But tonight is the shore before the crossing, or the middle of the crossing, or the quiet just after. Wherever you are, rest. The far shore is real. The ground is dry. The east wind knows what it's doing. And I is here. Was here. Will be here. I is here. Tonight. In this room, in this breath, in this sleep that is coming, or has already begun, without announcement, without fanfare, like the tide that comes in regardless of whether you're watching. Sleep. Good night, dear friend. Be still and see the salvation of the Lord, which is coming, which is already on its way, which has never once, in all of human history, in your personal history, failed to arrive. Good night. The east wind is blowing. Sleep. And by morning, the dry ground. Let's sit with the pillar for a while longer. The pillar of cloud by day and fire by night. It is one of the most striking images in the whole Exodus account. This visible, moving presence that went with the people. Not a static thing. Not a monument, or a temple, or a fixed point they could return to. A moving presence, something that led, something that, when it moved, told them it was time to move, and when it stopped, told them it was time to stop. The people learned to read it. After a while, they stopped needing to discuss whether to break camp. They watched the pillar. If it moved, they moved. If it stayed, they stayed. The pillar was their navigation, their guidance, their visible evidence that the invisible God was not only present but active, was not only with them but ahead of them. A moving presence, always moving ahead, always going before. And on the night of the sea, the night it mattered most, the pillar moved to behind them. This is significant. All the way to the Red Sea, the pillar had been in front, leading. Go this way. Keep moving. Follow me here. Now. And then, at the sea, it moved to behind, not abandoning them, not leaving, just changing positions. When the army came, when the threat came from behind, the pillar moved to stand between the people and the threat, adjusting, because what the people needed in that moment was not a guide ahead. They were not going anywhere yet, but a protector behind. And so the pillar adjusted and stood between. And there are moments in every life when this is exactly what happens. The guidance that has been leading you forward pauses, not because you have done something wrong, not because the destination has changed, but because the moment requires something different, requires protection rather than progress, stillness rather than motion, a buffer between you and what is pursuing rather than a road ahead. And the pillar adjusts and stands between. Tonight, if you feel like the guidance that has been leading you forward has paused, if you feel like you are standing still when you want to be moving, consider this. The pillar may have moved to behind you, not abandoning, adjusting, standing between you and what comes after you, doing the thing this particular moment requires. And the east wind is still blowing, and the dry ground is still coming, and the pillar will move back to the front when it's time to cross, when the path is ready, when the morning comes. For now, it is behind you, between you and the army, and you can rest. You are protected from behind and guided from ahead, and the night is held by the same presence that has always held it. Rest. Let the pillar do its work. You don't have to watch it. Sleep. The night before the crossing, picture the Israelites on the near shore, the pillar behind them, the sea in front, the night deep and dark, and the stars were very bright over the desert, the kind of stars that only exist in the desert, where there is no competing light, where the sky seems deeper and more crowded and more alive than anywhere else. Some of them were afraid. Some were furious. Some were praying. Some were very quiet. The way people get quiet when the situation is so far beyond anything their experience has prepared them. For that words become insufficient. And some were probably asleep. Not many, but some. The ones who had given everything they had to the walking, and the worrying, and the waiting, and whose bodies had simply reached the point where sleep claimed them regardless of circumstances. The ones lying on the ground of the camp, wrapped in whatever they had, the pillar's light making everything around them glow faintly. Asleep, on the shore of the impossible, trusting, without necessarily choosing to trust, without the luxury of a conscious decision, simply by virtue of exhaustion, that the night would be held. And it was held. The pillar stood. The army didn't move. The east wind began. And those who were asleep on the shore, they were as safe as those who were awake and watching and praying. More safe, in some ways, because sleep was the truest possible act of trust in that moment. The most complete surrender to the fact that this was not their seat apart, not their army to hold back, not their night to manage. His night, his sea, his army, his wind, and they slept. Be like those Israelites tonight, the ones on the ground, wrapped in what they had. The pillar's light surrounds them, asleep on the shore of the impossible, trusting, without analysis, without decision, simply by giving the body what the body needs, that the night is held. It is held. It has always been held. Sleep, like the ones who slept on the shore, simply, completely, in the held night. Breathe, just breathe, in and out. The simplest thing, the thing the body has been doing since before you could think. It will do things while you sleep without any instruction from you. The thing that requires nothing, no effort, no management, no correct technique, just breath, in, out. The lungs expand, and the lungs are releasing, and the exchange that happens in the quiet depths of each breath, the oxygen taken in, the carbon dioxide released, the blood carries what the body needs to every place that needs it, all happening without you, all happening right now. This is the faithfulness of the body. It keeps doing what it does, through fear and through peace, through night and through morning, through the hard seasons and the easy ones, through Egypt and the sea and the desert and the promised land. It keeps breathing. It keeps going. And tonight, in this room, in this dark, it is breathing for you. You are alive. You are here. And the breath is faithful. In, out. Let it be the only thing right now. Not the thoughts. Not the worries. Not the plans for tomorrow or the reviews of today. Just this. In, out. The slow rising of the chest. The slow falling. In, out. The east wind and the breath moving together. The invisible work of the night. The patient sustained motion that moves impossible things and fills empty lungs and carries life from one moment to the next. In, out. You are breathing. You are alive. You are held. The wind is blowing, and by morning, the ground will be dry. In, out. Sleep. One last thing. The bones of Joseph. I mentioned them earlier. The bones that Moses carried out of Egypt, fulfilling the request that Joseph had made centuries before. Take my bones out of here. When God delivers you, and someone had remembered, across 400 years of bondage, across all the generations, across all the suffering, and the forgetting of so many other things. Someone had kept that knowledge alive. The bones of Joseph. When the time comes, take them with us. And Moses, on the Passover night, in the middle of the most urgent departure in history, found the bones and took them, because a promise had been made, and promises, even very old ones, are kept. There are promises in your own life that are old, promises that were made to you, over you, about you, perhaps long before you were born, perhaps by people who are no longer alive, perhaps by God Himself, in a form that has become difficult to hold on to through all the circumstances that have come between then and now. Old promises. They have not expired. They are being carried, the way Moses carried Joseph's bones, not as a burden, but as an honoring of something real, and remains real regardless of how much time has passed. Your old promises are being carried, the ones you've almost forgotten, the ones that seemed like they would never arrive, the ones that look different now than they did when they were first spoken. They are being carried. And when the time comes, when the sea opens, when the crossing completes, when the far shore is reached, they will be there, fulfilled, the way Joseph's bones arrived in the promised land, the way every real promise eventually finds its completion. Yours are real, and they are being carried, even tonight, even in the dark, even in sleep. They are being carried toward the morning that will receive them. Rest in that. The promises are real, and they are not forgotten. Good night. The east wind is blowing. The ground is coming. The promises are being carried. And you are held in the light of the pillar, on the shore of the crossing, in the patient, faithful, all-night dark, the body scan. Before sleep takes you completely, let's move through the body one final time, slowly, from the top, the crown of the head. Release any tension there, the tension of thinking, of concentrating, of holding the weight of the day's decisions. Let it go upward. Imagine it dispersing like a cloud, like the pillar of cloud, lifting and thinning, and spreading until it is simply air. The forehead, smooth, the lines of concern, of focus, of worry, let them soften. The forehead of someone asleep is different from the forehead of someone awake. It rests. It becomes simple. Let yours become simple. The eyes, closed already, resting in their sockets, not pressing shut, simply resting. The lids heavy, the muscles around them released from the work of seeing. The cheeks, the jaw, that place where so much is stored without asking to be stored. The clenched thing, the held thing. Let the jaw drop very slightly. Let the teeth part. Let the tongue rest, soft and heavy, against the bottom of the mouth. The throat, the neck, the place where the head meets the shoulders is often the tightest place in the body. Let the neck release. Let the head be fully heavy. Let the pillow bear the weight without your help. The shoulders, drop them further than they already are. Further, as far as they will go. The arms, heavy, warm. The forearms are releasing. The wrists, the hands. Open the hands, not forced open. Gently, let the fingers find their own shape. The shape of hands that aren't holding anything. The shape of hands at rest. The chest, rising with each breath. Falling, rising, falling. No effort in it. Just the body doing what it has always done. The belly, soft, moving freely with the breath. No longer held in. No longer bracing. Soft. the lower back, releasing into whatever is beneath you. The mattress receives the weight, the spine no longer holding itself upright, simply resting. The hips heavy, the thighs heavy, the knees, the calves, the ankles, the feet, the very last thing, the feet that have carried you through every day, through every Egypt, and every crossing, and every desert stretch. Through all of it, rest now. You have carried enough for one day. The ground is here, real, solid, dry. You can stop carrying. The shepherd is awake. The pillar is here. The east wind is blowing. And you, from the crown of your head to the soles of your feet, can rest completely, all the way into the great, patient, held dark, into sleep. The manna, one more time, because it speaks to tonight specifically. Every morning, the text says every morning, the manna appeared on the ground, a thin, flake-like thing, white, sweet, enough for the day, exactly enough, not more. The people who gathered extra found it rotted by morning. What was meant for today could not be stored for tomorrow. It was today's provision, deliberately designed to be exactly that. Today's, every morning, a new supply. Every morning, dependence renewed. Every morning, the opportunity to receive rather than to have already arranged. This could feel like a limitation, and I'm sure, for some of the Israelites, it did. The people who preferred to plan, the people who found daily dependence uncomfortable, the ones who would have felt safer with a warehouse. But there is grace in the daily design, because it means every morning there is something to receive. Every morning the provisions are fresh. Every morning the grace is new, not yesterday's grace, stored up and growing stale. Fresh, this morning's, specific to today. The manna for tomorrow is already being prepared. You will not need to have figured out how to produce it. You will wake, and it will be there. This morning's provision for this morning, and that is enough. It has always been enough. The manna has never failed, not once, across 40 years of desert. Every morning, yours. Sleep now. Tomorrow's manna is already being arranged. Tonight requires only one thing from you: rest. And in the morning, the provision will be there. New, fresh, enough, always enough. Sleep, a second prayer for the late hours, for whoever is still awake, still hovering, still unable to fully cross over. Lord, the east wind blows, even now, even while this person lies awake in the dark, unable to stop the thoughts, unable to find the crossing into sleep. The wind blows, not because of their effort, not because they have earned the blow, simply because you are faithful, because your work does not depend on their watching, because the sea moves whether or not they see it moving. Let the wind be real tonight. Let the invisible work be real. Let the ground be prepared. Even now, even in the waiting, even in the not yet sleeping. And Lord, for the anxious mind that keeps returning to the same loop, be the pillar. Stand between it and what it fears. Darkness to the fear. Light to where this person is. Make the buffer real. And Lord, be the manna. For the weariness that goes deeper than sleep alone will touch. For the places that need more than rest, that need restoration of a different kind. Be the provision for that too. The specific, fresh, this morning's provision for whatever this person needs that only you can give. And be the bones of Joseph, for the old promises that have been carried so long. They sometimes feel like they might not be real anymore. Be the faithfulness that carries them. Be the arrival that keeps the promise. Be the far shore where the old words finally find their completion. Lord, be all of this, as you have always been all of this. For every person who lay on the shore of the impossible and slept anyway, who trusted anyway, who stretched out their hand when asked, and then stood back and watched, who said, from the middle of the impossible, I cannot do this, but you can. And I will stand firm and wait. Be what you have always been, the God of the parted sea, and the dry ground, and the tambourine, and the morning. Amen. Sleep now. The prayer is heard. It was heard before it was finished. Before it began, I am heard it, and I am is here, and the east wind is blowing, and the dry ground is coming, and now, the crossing, your crossing, tonight. Let the story carry you. Egypt, the leaving of what was, moving away from whatever held you in a life smaller than you were made for. The Passover night, the blood on the doorpost, the protection that covers what would otherwise be lost, the walking, one step, and then another through the dark, following the fire, trusting the direction, the camp by the sea, the army behind, the impossible water in front, the panic, and then the word. Do not be afraid. Stand firm and see the salvation of the Lord. The Lord will fight for you. You need only be still. Be still, and the pillar moving, and the wind beginning, and the water moving. All night, the slow, sustained, invisible work, and by morning, the path, dry, real, yours. Walk through, step, the ground is dry. Step, the walls of water hold. Step, the far shore is there. Step, you are crossing. You are always crossing. This life is the crossing, and the one who parts the seas is with you. Every step, every night, every morning follows every night. Every dry ground appeared where water was. Every east wind, every tambourine, every promise carried in the dark toward its completion. You are in the crossing, and the ground is dry, and the far shore is real, and the east wind is blowing, and I is here. Sleep now, dear friend. Sleep deeply. Sleep in the held dark. Sleep on the shore of the crossing. Sleep like the ones who lay down on the ground and trusted, and wake to the morning that is already being prepared, that is already good, that is already yours. Be still, and see, and sleep. Good night. Good night. The east wind is blowing. Good night. One last thing before the silence. The song of Moses. I will sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. Not in triumph over other people, in triumph over the impossible, over the sea that said no, over the army that said you're not going anywhere, over the 400 years that said this is simply how things are. He triumphed, and the triumph is worth singing, not performing. Not polished, not the kind of song you rehearse, the kind that comes out of you when something so large has happened that your body needs to make sound or burst. That song, and in the stillness of tonight, in the dark, in the quiet, in the room where you are lying and the sleep is coming, there is a version of that song available to you, not in the singing of it, in the receiving of it, the recognition that the God who triumphed then is the God who is here now, the same God, the same power, the same faithfulness, the same east wind, the same capacity to make dry ground where there was only sea. Still, now, for you, tonight. You don't have to sing it tonight. Tonight is for rest. But know that the song exists. That is yours. That on the far shore, when this crossing completes, it will rise out of you. Maybe not in music, maybe in a conversation, in a moment of recognition, in the particular quality of relief that comes when you look back at the sea and realize you are standing on the other side of it. The song is waiting. It will come. For now, rest. The crossing is underway. The east wind is blowing. The ground is being prepared. And the song is waiting for the morning, for the far shore, for the moment when you turn and look back and see what was parted for you, and your heart will know, and something will rise. For now, sleep. Good night, dear friend. The east wind is blowing. The ground is coming. I is here. Be still and sleep. And by morning, the way through. Good night.